Okay, I'm going to show you how an easy way to thread a needle. The first thing is with your thread, it is often easiest if you thread the part that is coming off of the spool, not off of the cut end, and it just has to do with the way that the thread is spun. Really, it doesn't matter, but if you're having a trouble in one direction, you can do it in the other direction. Now, the thing that most people do is they take the thread and they try to push it through the eye. And if the eye is big enough and your thread is stiff enough, it works and there's no problem. But sometimes you have a smaller eye and your thread might start to get frayed, and then it's hard to push it through. Well, the way I do it, which is very consistent, and you can get a pretty fat thread through a pretty small eye, is I take the thread and I suck it down between my fingers until I can see just a dot of the thread. And then I take the eye of the needle, and leaving my fingers in place, I wiggle the eye of the needle over the thread. And then I catch the end of the thread with my fingernail and I can pull it through the eye. This also works, for instance, if the end of your thread gets frayed. A lot of people still have the habit of licking the end of your thread. If you're using cotton thread, that's fine. But if you're using polyester thread, it actually just plumps the fibers. It doesn't slick them down like it does with cotton thread, which used to be the common thread to use. And then everybody learns it from their mom or their grandma, and then everybody still does it. But if you have a frayed end and you don't have sharp scissors with you to cut the end, what you can do is use the needle and fold the thread over your needle and make a sharp corner, like a fold, and then you can take your needle and use the same technique of sliding the eye over the needle. Okay, wait, whoops. Let me do that again. Whoops. And then, whoop, there you go. If that happens, that means you've split your threads because it's made out of several plies. And so just pull the needle off and do it again. There you go. And then that's how you thread a needle with just regular thread and a regular needle. Now I'm going to show you how to thread how to use a needle threader with your needles. This is a really, really common needle threader. They're very inexpensive. They often come free in or included in sewing kits or even in needle packets because they're approximately 10 cents a piece or something. They're pretty inexpensive. But the way these work is because this wire is thin yet stiff, it is easier to get through the eye of a needle than it is a thread. And so if you push that through the eye of your needle, now it's easier because this is open. It's easier to put your thread through the threader, and then you just pull that through, and now your needle is threaded. And it works equally well on small eye needles. Takes a little more aim, of course. But once that's through, same thing, just put your thread through your threader, and then you can pull it through your eye. Here's another type of threader that is fairly inexpensive, but you can see it's got a little bit more to it than just this little, the little giveaway threaders. This one is from Fire Mountain Gems, was included in one of my orders. But the way this one works is there is a hole here to put your needle through. Now, when you put your needle in, I'm going to first use this big needle because it's easier to see. when you put your needle in, the eye needs to be up. And so you put your needle in, and then close this, or this is like a trigger or handle. Put your needle in, close the handle, or squeeze the handle, and then put your thread across here, and then it pulls your thread with that little tiny hook through your needle, and then it apparently holds you onto your thread. Okay, there you go. So that's how that one works, and it works equally well with little tiny eyes. But you do have to make sure that you can, you have to see the eye and make sure that it's straight up and down, so that so that this tiny hook comes through the eye. And to make sure that it's through, if you can't pull out the needle, then that means that little thing is through the eye. And then you just thread, make sure that that little hook catches your thread, and it pulls it right on through. There you go.